Good evening and welcome to The Report with me, John Rees. On tonight's programme, we'll be taking a look at the inauguration of Indonesia's 7th president. Also tonight, a report on the protest against austerity over the weekend here in Britain. But first up, the month-long conflict between Kurdish fighters and Islamic State forces raging in the Syrian border town of Kobani. US-led coalition forces continue airstrikes on IS targets, and today the Turkish government began to allow Iraqi Peshmerga fighters to travel through Turkey to fight IS in and around Kobani. This comes as US airdrops weapons to Kurds fighting the al-Qaida splinter group. Nathaniel Amos Sansom has been following developments.
From afar, Kobani seemed relatively quiet today. On the town streets, however, the conflict became a bloody war of attrition. And regionally, the conflict in Kobani is potentially helping change alliances in the Middle East. Today, the Turkish government granted permission for Iraqi Peshmerga fighters to cross Turkey's border with Syria to fight IS. Turkey has so far not allowed Turkish Kurds to cross, and have refused to supply the Kurdish fighters in Kobani with weapons. The Turkish government, however, insists that they are still acting in full cooperation with the US-led coalition.
Kobani içinde koalisyon ile tam bir işbirliği içinde olduk. Biz bölgenin tüm tehditlerden arınmasını istiyoruz. Bugün ABD'nin Kobani'yi savunan tüm güçlere havadan atarak ulaştırdığı Iraklı Kürt kardeşlerimizin ya da onlar tarafından sağlanan asgari ve tıbbi malzeme yardımını da bu çerçevede değerlendiriyoruz.
For now, Turkey's military remains stationary, overlooking the conflict in Kobani along its southern border. The Turkish government has refused to endorse any ground campaign in Syria, unless the campaign involves the removal of President Assad, and it is also wary of allowing Turkish and Syrian Kurds to move across its border. Domestically, Turkey is struggling to manage the inflow of 1.5 million refugees, who have crossed over its Syrian border since 2011. Over 250,000 people have fled Kobani alone in the last month. An international aid agency said over the weekend that they were doing all they could to provide support to ease the crisis.
The local authorities, the national authorities, particularly AFAD, UN agencies and international and national NGOs have come together to work very quickly and hard to give as much support to people as possible.
In Kobani itself, while Kurdish fighters on the ground say that airstrikes are having some effect, the messy street war goes on. This amateur video posted online last week is said to show Kurdish forces retaking countryside from IS. However, on Saturday, some of the fiercest fighting in recent days shook the town, with IS reportedly firing over 44 mortars into the centre of Kobani. All of which has led to criticism of coalition tactics in their bombing campaign against IS, with regular airstrikes against IS being seen as largely ineffective. Over the weekend, according to a statement from US Central Command, their aircraft have also dropped weapons and ammunition, as well as medical supplies, which were said to have been provided by Kurdish authorities in Iraq to help Kurdish fighters in Kobani. But for many Kurds around the world, the current level of aid and assistance to fighters in Kobani is not good enough. On Saturday, Kurdish people in Paris took to the streets, calling for a stronger response by the international community to the situation in Kobani.
Écoutez, nous voudrons de la communauté internationale un soutien politique vis-à-vis de ce qui se passe actuellement à Kobani en raison de ces combats qui continuent entre l'organisation Daesh et le combattant kurde.
The conflict along the Turkish-Syrian border has been seen as being on a knife edge for many weeks, with endless warnings by analysts and world leaders that the town could soon fall. But whether or not Kobani finally does fall, the regional and international issues that it has exposed will continue for some time. Nathaniel Amos Sansom, The Report.
Joining me in the studio to discuss this are Dr Latif Tas, who's a specialist in Kurdish affairs at the University of Oxford, Hakan Camuz, who's chairman of MUSIAD UK and a supporter of the ruling AK party in Turkey, and by Skype we're joined by Sabah Al-Mukhtar, Iraq expert and president of the Arab Lawyers Association. Welcome to the programme, everybody. Latif, does this mean that we should interpret the events this way, that the Turkish government likes the Iraqi Kurds because they've been pro-American right from the time of the original invasion of Iraq? It doesn't like the Syrian and Turkish Kurds, so that it's allowing the Iraqi Kurds through Turkey into Kobani, but not the PKK. Is that right?
Actually, despite having some relationship with the Iraqi Kurdistan, Turkey always have a problem with Kurds since the beginning of the Turkish Republic. That was the evidence when, in August, when there was a big conflict, ISIS attack again in Sinjar, Iraqi Kurdish government asked for help, but Turkey refused to help. And Turkey actually, till very recently, maybe actually till yesterday, they wanted to have a very weakened Kurds around in that region and also in Turkey as well. This policy, of course, continue in Syrian Kurds as well. They create excuse of PKK and other issue as well. But we know that Turkey has followed the policy since 2010 about Middle East. First, they lost in Egypt. Second, they lost in Tunisia. Third, they lost actually in Syria. And at the moment, yesterday, they changed the policy. They at the moment start helping Kurds in Kobani, not because of Turkish government wants to do that, because actually Kobani's war, it was a victory against ISIL, and also it was victory against actually Turkish government's policies till now.
Okay, Hakan, how do you read it?
Let me apologize for my attire. I just came back from the airport. I'm sorry.
You're very welcome.
I just kind of rushed into the studio.
It's a relaxed program, and we like to see you like this.
Let me just respond to my friend's comments about Turkey having a problem with the Kurds. Kurds and Turks lived in the same land for hundreds of years, and Turkey does not have a problem with the Kurds. Turkey has a terrorism problem that it suffered over 30 years with PKK and its affiliated PYD, which is in northern Syria, to whom they're not willing to help, because you helping PYD is you helping PKK in the eyes of the Turkish state. Therefore, they don't want to help the terrorist organization that they've been fighting over 30 years. Simple. Helping Kobani people, over 250,000, as per your report, moved into Turkey. They have been looked after, the civilians. Now you have nearly 2 million people from Syria who moved into Turkey, being looked after by Turkish state. Just make a comparison, John. Every year, Muslims go to Hajj, and you have about 3 million people for 1 month in Saudi Arabia. You have nearly 2 million people who've been living in Turkey now for about the last 4 years every day. It's a massive task Turkey's undertaken. Nobody's helping Turkey for this. Why should they be responsible for helping what they perceive as a terrorist organization, giving them weapons and whatnot? They wouldn't do this. You wouldn't expect America to give weapons to al-Qaida, would you? They wouldn't do it. Why would Turkey give help to a terrorist organization, what they perceive as a terrorist organization?
Okay. Sabah, let me just ask you now about the airdrops of weapons to the Kurds in Kobani. This is not only a kind of change in American policy, but can't be welcomed by Ankara either.
I don't think there is a change in the policy. The idea is that the US has been pushing Turkey to behave like the rest of the countries. They wanted Turkey to behave just as the UK did, this gimmicky thing, we are going to bomb them. We got the Belgians, the Canadians, the Australians, the pilot Mariam al-Mansouri from the UAE, when everybody knows that this is all nonsensical. This is not a real thing. They've been pushing Turkey to play the role of holding the fire. Turkey cannot do that. Turkey has two problems. Problem number one, it has indigenous population of Kurds, which they perceive them as separatists. Therefore, they accuse them of being terrorists. And actually, there is one of the political party, the PKK, has a problem with the government of Turkey. The Turks have adopted the line that we are not going to be involved because we don't want the wrath of the Kurdish population within Turkey, nor do we want to have to pick a fight with ISIS. If David Cameron and Obama want to pick a fight with ISIS, this is their prerogative. Turkey does not want to do that. But at the same time, the idea that Turkey, the comparison between 2 millions in Turkey and the pilgrimage in Mecca, I think it's a fallacy, because this one is one city and this one is a country. Country can take on 2 million people. They shouldn't, except that under international law, principally countries which are neighboring an area where there is a disaster, there is a human tragedy, then they have a duty to help. Obviously, the world has to help them as well. But I think this idea that you can fight terrorism from the air is a myth. which everybody knows this is not true. It cannot be done. The world is talking about this. They want the Turks to do it.
Sabah, just before I come back to the studio, what do you make of the fact then that Iraqi Kurds will be allowed through Turkey and into Kobani?
Well, as far as Turkey is concerned, they don't want Kobani to fall to what they see as the PKK. They don't want Qaeda to stay there, but at the present moment, ISIS is fighting what is perceived to be the Kurdish PKK. So Turkey doesn't like either of them, those who are in the city and those who are attacking them. They want to address this balance. So if people want to fight, then it's okay. You can get the Kurds to come and assist the Kurds to fight the other Kurds. Incidentally, those ISIS who are attacking Kobani mostly are Kurds anyway. So Turkey, in this instance, they don't mind getting some of the Turks to come and fight or support, but they don't want to give weapons. As my friend said at the studio, the US would not support al-Qaida, so why would
anybody... Okay, let me just bring it back to the studio now. Latif, do you think that the arrival of Iraqi Kurds in Kobani will lead to inter-Kurd fighting? Because there's not a huge amount of love lost between the PKK and Barzani, the leader of the Iraqi Kurds.
We know that at the moment, on the ground, the only trusted forces for Western allies, actually Kurds, fighting against ISIL. And they have been very successful in Iraqi side. Peshmerga has so far actually keep ISIL away from the territorial. And Kobani we have seen last 2 months without any single help from outsider, and just a few airstrikes. And they actually managed to help Western allies. They are fighting for Western allies there to keep ISIL away. Turkey till now, actually they preferred the success of the ISIL than Kurds themselves. But nowadays, they are actually shifting their policy. Also, last week, we saw the Barzani, the Kurdish leader in Iraq. He had a meeting with the Syrian leader, Salih Muslim. And he said that Kobani is as important as Erbil. Actually, Kurds, Turkish recent policies, very strong, centralized against Turkish claim policies as a way create an environment which Turkey didn't want to create. They actually unified Kurds, not just Kurds in Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. They also Kurds around the world actually come together. They start pushing Turkish government to change the very recently weak, very strange foreign policy, which actually almost they are not just betraying Western their allies, they are betraying their own one of the majority of population, Kurds as well.
We just bring Hakan in. What do you reckon about this? Is it, as Latif says, that the Turkish policies and no doubt the situation that the Kurds find themselves in has pushed them towards greater unity, or is there some hope by Ankara that reliable Kurds will arrive in Kobani as opposed to unreliable ones?
I've found my friend's analysis to be somewhat not based on any recent real discussions or even proper analysis. I mean, Turkey do not hate Kurds or have some kind of sinister foreign policy towards them. We're talking about one particular terrorist organization who has been raging armed conflict against Turkey. I can't accept any argument where this is somehow seen to be normal. Anything else, Turkey has been working with the northern Iraq, northern Kurdistan, trading, supplying. There's massive trade going on between Turkey and the Kurds. Peshmerga fighters have conducted operations in northern Iraq when they're fighting against un-Islamic State, because I don't want to call them Islamic State fighters. Turkey was helping them, giving them guns and weapons, which they've confessed they did. They just didn't want to talk about it until recently, just to show the world that Turkey is helping them. So to have this kind of criticism would be somewhat unjust. Whether it is created a unity is good wherever it comes from, as long as it is done for the right purposes. Fighting in Kobani is not something that Turkish military should be doing, nor should Turkey have the conduct of what happens in Kobani. Turkey doesn't have a legal ground nor moral ground to actually intervene in, like my friend on Skype was saying, intervene in the fighting of somebody else. Why would Turkey do this now when Turkey wasn't expecting to do this for any other ethnic minorities that were being killed by Assad regime or un-Islamic State fighters in other areas of Syria. Why is it Turkey should go into Kobani now? Turkish military should intervene now. It's just ridiculous.
What do you make of the American airdrops of weapons now to Kurds fighting in Kobani? How is that viewed in Ankara?
They actually, our president yesterday said, as far as we're concerned, PYD is a terrorist organization just as same as PKK. And the airdrops was actually dropped into Kobani, is helping the PYD fighters, which is who are fighting the un-Islamic State fighters. So it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it, trying to analyze why would America help them when NATO member, American ally, Turkey sees them as a terrorist.
Well, isn't it, Latif, isn't this a kind of non-verbal criticism of Turkish policy that the Americans have decided to drop these into Kobani?
Because it was actually the urgent issue. America had to do that because Kurds there, they are fighting for not just their security for themselves. They actually, the war, they didn't start this war for themselves. It is the war created by Western allies and also by Turkey. Turkey was actually a result of the Syrian war. If they are complaining today about 2 million people in their own territorial, they should have, in the first place, they shouldn't have supported opposition group, radical religious fanatics in Syria to create this mass murdering. In Turkish policy against Kurds, just last week, there was a demonstration against Turkish very centralistic policy by Kurds. And 40 people, they were on the street. They were killed by Turkish forces, by Turkish nationalities, and also.
Well, John, I'm going to have to stop you there before we open up a whole other debate because I'm going to have to bring it to a close there because I'm afraid we're going to have to move on to the other side of this problem, on the other side of that border. And now 19 civilians were reported dead and 28 others have been reported injured by a car bomb and other blasts in the north of Baghdad. The victims were attending a funeral service held outside a Shia mosque. Dr Latif Tas has more on this and the rest of today's news.